All right. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Jazziz Happy Hour. I am your host, Brian Zimmerman, digital content editor for Jazziz Magazine. Again, very, very happy you could be joining me tonight. We've got a really exciting doubleheader in store for today's episode. It is Wednesday, May 13th. It happens to be Stevie Wonder's birthday, so happy birthday to Stevie Wonder. It's also, apparently, somebody told me, International Hummus Day. So thank God for hummus. I don't know how I'd be able to survive without it during these crazy times. But anyway, like I mentioned, a really exciting episode. Two guests today. We're going to start things off, Sopranos fans, you're going to want to pay attention, with Michael Imperioli, an extraordinary actor. Again, you know him from The Sopranos. You know him from movies like Summer of Sam with Spike Lee. He's also a huge jazz fan and has been for almost his entire life. He is going to be partaking in the Jazz Foundation of America Gala, which is happening tomorrow night, Thursday, May 14th at 8 p.m. He's going to be hosting along with the likes of Keegan-Michael Key and Bruce Willis. There's going to be some performances by Wayne Shorter, John Batiste, Elvis Costello, Sheryl Crow. It's going to be a really amazing concert. And of course, it all benefits the Jazz Foundation of America, which is an organization that supports jazz musicians through troubled times. So it's more important than ever. After we speak with Michael, we're going to be talking to trumpeter Terrence Blanchard about a new movie he's working on, Up from the Streets. Terrence is producing the music. And if you know anything about Terrence Blanchard, is that he produces some amazing film scores. So that's what's in store for the episode today. I'm going to go ahead and thank some sponsors before we get into the conversation. I'd like to start first by thanking Concord Records. They have a new album out right now called Ella 100, live at the Apollo. It is available for streaming and purchase right now. It's a live recording from 2016, and it's a celebration of all things Ella Fitzgerald. Featured performances from the likes of Andra Day, Ledisi, Liz Wright, Cassandra Wilson, Monica Mancini, and the Count Basie Jazz Orchestra, featuring, or led by rather, Scotty Barnhart. It is hosted by Grammy Award-winning vocalist Patty Austin and Tony-nominated actor David Alan Grier. And like I said, it's available now. Pick yourself up a copy at concord.com. Also, thank you to Blue Sound. Blue Sound is an award-winning wireless high-res sound system that lets you play music in any and every room throughout your home. Choose music from your favorite streaming service or from a music library connected to your home network. Control where, at what volume, and when the music plays via a free Blue OS app for your smartphone, tablet, or desktop computer. And that's it. Getting the kind of crisp, detailed sound that only an audiophile-grade system can deliver has never been easier. That is how you live hi-fi. You can learn more at bluesound.com or by checking out our website, jazziz.com, where we have put together a Blue Sound buyer's guide. All right, well, without further ado, let's go ahead and welcome our first guest. As I mentioned, you know him from The Sopranos. You know him from movies like Summer of Sam. He has a new podcast out right now dedicated to all things Sopranos called Talking Sopranos. But most importantly for our show, he's a huge jazz fan. Please welcome Michael Imperioli.
Hi, Brian.
Michael, how you doing?
I'm okay. How are you?
Yeah, I'm doing well, too. I guess that question is becoming more and more relative these days, you know, but just trying to hang in there the best I can. I've got two little kids at home, so my house outside of these office walls is an absolute mess. But otherwise, hey, we have our health, you know, we're doing okay.
That's it. We have to do what we have to do right now. Let's keep going.
Exactly, man. Michael, you know, people are well aware of your acting career from The Sopranos, from Goodfellas, from classic movies like that. They may not know that you are an avid jazz fan. So I'm wondering if you could tell us, when did you what was your first exposure to jazz? And do you remember some of the early albums or performers that kind of pricked your ears a little bit?
I don't remember exactly, you know, how I got into it, but it might have had something to do with Jack Kerouac, and his love for jazz, particularly Charlie Parker and that period of jazz. And I got turned on to Kerouac when I was a teenager, like 17, 18. It also he also turned me on to Buddhism, which I tried to get into, but it was a little bit beyond me. But I wound up becoming a Buddhist many, many years later, you know. But I think the first jazz album, and it is a jazz musician, but it's not. It's kind of more of a fusion album was Bitches Brew. Was the first
totally. Oh, I totally count
jazz
that as a
record.
jazz album. Sure.
That's a jazz album, sure.
Oh yeah.
It has rock elements as well, of course, but and just trying to, jazz is very mysterious when you get to that area of it. The more straightforward you understand it and you've heard it your whole life. When you start listening to things like that, you really have to pay attention to what the musicians are trying to do. And that album made me realize, oh wow, jazz can go way out. And because I think before that I thought of it more in the very traditional terms
swing,
of it,
bebop. Yeah, there were kind of some set structures there. Yeah,
exactly. But then hearing that album was like, oh wow, wow, how far can this go? What are they trying to do? What are these guys trying to do, and where is it coming from? And it was a very mysterious record to me.
Yeah.
So then I went backwards with Miles, to Kind of Blue and the stuff he was doing with the quintet. And but he always, I got to see him play once, and something about that artist still just cuts right through everything. He made me really understand what it meant to be a singular voice, as a musician, and just in a very simple way, in a very complex way. I mean, his tone was very simple and very clear, very distinctive. One note, it's him.
Exactly. Yeah.
And yet he could take that into some of the most complex arrangements and compositions. And he was like almost my teacher, of jazz in a way, just by trying to really pay attention to what he was trying to do throughout his career. And then I got really into Mingus, because the bass you always think of as a, rhythm section instrument, more of a supporting player, right? And what he was able to do to make the bass a central instrument, and a lead instrument sometimes. And I read his biography, Beneath the Underdog, and that was also very informative in terms of where the music comes from,
Absolutely. I remember we spoke last time for our podcast, which is available on jazziz.com, and you mentioned Mingus and how big of an influence he was. So I don't know if you can see, but I wore the shirt just for you, man. Mingus, Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. One of my favorite albums of all time, incredible jazz ballet. Yeah. And it also awesome that you got to see Miles Davis live, something I've never been able to do. But as a trumpet player, I mean, he kind of sets the bar to all about honesty, authenticity, one note, not much vibrato, not much complexity, but said so much, with the notes that he did play and the spaces between them, and it's kind of interesting to me that you mentioned Bitches Brew, and that fusion era as the thing that piqued your interest, and as it was kind of trying to transform jazz into something else. And so many of the artists that were involved with that project, I'm thinking Herbie Hancock and also other kind of fusion pioneers like Wayne Shorter, would eventually find their way to Buddhism as well. So there's a lot of overlap for you, man. And it's so exciting to hear that you are a jazz fan and still very much are a jazz fan, and that you're so involved with the Jazz Foundation of America. So we should mention this is an organization that helps support jazz musicians through tough times. They were instrumental in getting musicians from New Orleans on their feet after Katrina, finding housing for musicians from Houston after the flooding there. And even in Puerto Rico, when Hurricane Maria tore through there, they swooped in and really kind of provided emergency assistance. So how did you first link up with this organization?
Through a mutual friend. And I didn't know about it. As soon as I heard about it, I thought, this is fantastic. And, you're mentioning the big epic disasters that they responded to and certainly have. But they also work in a very day-to-day, way with musicians. Right. And one of the things, I joined the board about 15 years ago, the advisory board. And one of the things we were trying to do was bring jazz musicians to schools, particularly in New York City, to teach music, to get them, both get some jobs for some of these musicians, but also get great education for these kids. And that was really fun. And then, they teach for a semester and then do a concert with the kids at the school. And that was a beautiful experience, seeing that inspiration being given to these kids and that education. But the Jazz Foundation, I come to it in a selfish way too, because I just love the music. And the first thing I did was went to one of their concerts, and they put on the greatest concerts that I've ever been to. There's one tomorrow, which is more of it is a virtual go see it live, but they just put on some of they do in the spring. They usually do the Apollo, and in the fall they do a loft party in Chelsea, and they're just the greatest parties and concerts you could.
They really are, man.
Really.
Yeah. I've been to a few. Steve Jordan, is the artistic director who really programs a lot of the music. And yeah, this concert that you mentioned, this gala concert taking place tomorrow online for obvious reasons, is star-studded, man. I've been looking through the program here. Performances by Milton Nascimento, John Batiste, Stanley Jordan, Elvis Costello, Sheryl Crow, Angelique Kidjo, Robert Cray, and it's going to be hosted by Keegan-Michael Key, comedian from Key and Peele. Anyone you're really looking forward to seeing in terms of performance? Wayne Shorter, Bootsy Collins, Steve Jordan.
Yeah,
a little bit of everybody.
Stanley Jordan.
That's right.
One of my favorites. He's someone I got turned on to. Really, I think I saw him on the Tonight Show when I was like major. On the Johnny Carson show was the first time I saw Steve Jordan play, and I was just like, I had never seen anybody do what he did with a guitar.
Right.
It was just,
he's incredible. He's got a new Jimi Hendrix project coming out too. That is
really
mind blowing. Yeah. Like a tribute project. So that could be very cool.
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Michael. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
And I'm a big Elvis Costello fan. Always have been. And he's been a great supporter of the Jazz Foundation. He really has.
Yeah.
Grateful for that.
Totally. Your old friend Steve Shrippa is going to be there too. I guess hosting or announcing in some capacity.
Virtual co-host.
That's right. Was he into jazz? Do you remember from your Soprano days? Was he?
He's into music a lot, and lots of different kind of music. And I invited him to one of the events at the Jazz Foundation. He fell in love with it. Cool. It's hard not to. It's hard not to, just because of the greatness of the music, but also the spirit of the whole thing. And I encourage everybody, if you're not turned on to it, really, if you're in New York and you can come to the events, come, because you're just going to be, blown away. And they're very intimate too. You feel like you're part of it when you're there. It's not like it's very participatory. It's not just like sitting back and watching it. You really feel you're a part of the whole event.
It's so true, man. And this one is taking place on the Jazz Foundation of America website. You can donate via PayPal if you are so inclined. I'll be watching. Michael Imperioli will be involved. But hey, man, while we're on the subject of Steve Shrippa, I just want to close with the new podcast. I'm a huge Sopranos fan, so I have been following along. It's essentially you and Steve rewatching each episode and just kind of providing a running commentary. Is it true that you hadn't watched the series since it wrapped?
Yeah, I hadn't watched both Steve and I hadn't watched the series since it initially aired, which was one of the reasons why we thought this could work as a podcast, really seeing it with fresh eyes. We also have guests. So we have Robert Eiler, who played Anthony Jr. We have Jamie Lynn Sigler coming up. We have Edie Falco coming on. And not just actors, we're also having writers, directors, the costume designer, the casting people. We want to get impressions from both in front of the camera and behind the camera, and really give a comprehensive look at what went into the show. We also take questions from our listeners, and we pick one. They get a set of headphones if we read your question on air from Bose. And so far so good, people. If you're a fan of the show, most likely you're going to dig it because we give you insight that the podcasts devoted to the show, but they've been fans, talking about it. So this is the first time you're really getting people who were there to talk about what went on behind the scenes.
Very cool, man. Yeah, it's a super exciting series. I believe you're on somewhere around episode 7, right?
7 dropped on Monday.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So we got a ways to go. For Soprano fans, it's awesome. And encourage everyone watching to check it out. It's Spotify, Apple, iTunes, about all those places, right? Wherever you stream podcasts, it's available.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right on. Well, Michael, thank you so much for joining me. We sincerely appreciate it. Thank you for what you're doing with the Jazz Foundation of America. And this has been great, man. Thank you so much.
Thanks, man. Take care.
Yep, you too, Michael. Bye. All right, everyone. How about that? Michael Imperioli, such a treat for him to come by and chat with us about jazz, something that we all love. So thank you to him. We are going to be talking with Terrence Blanchard in a minute here. But first, I want to take a minute to thank a couple more sponsors. So thank you to Mac Avenue Records. They've been putting us on the road to great music for more than 20 years now. To start spinning some Mac Avenue stuff right now, I recommend the new album by Jimmy Green. He's this incredible saxophonist, and his new album is called While Looking Up. Some beautiful original compositions there. Or maybe check out the new Tower of Power record if that's your thing. It's called Step Up, and as I mentioned, both are available right now. To order them for yourself, the physical copy, check out macavenue.com. Thanks also to Smoke Sessions Records. It's a great label based out of Manhattan, where they also have a very fine jazz club. Their latest is The Intangible In Between from Orrin Evans and the Captain Black Big Band. So Orrin Evans is a pianist. He's also the newest member of the trio The Bad Plus. This is his own big band. So his writing is totally different, and he's a great writer for large ensembles. To hear it for yourself, to check it out, visit Smoke Sessions website, smokesessionsrecords.com. Some programming notes coming up here. Let's see who's coming up on the show later this week. Tomorrow, Thursday the 14th, which also, again, happens to be the Jazz Foundation of America Gala at 8 p.m. At 5 p.m., we're going to be talking to Ricky Riccardi, who is the Director of Research at the Louis Armstrong House Museum. He's going to be showing us some never-before-seen photos from Louis Armstrong and his house in Queens. They've got a new virtual exhibit out right now. From your own home, you can take a look around Louis Armstrong's home. So he's going to be talking to us about that. And then on 15th Friday, we're going to be talking to Kat Edmondson, a wonderful singer-songwriter who's got a new album all about dreaming. We're also going to be joined by Jazz's online editor, Matt McCucci, to walk through 5 albums that turned 50 in the year 2020. It means they were released in 1970. Here we are 50 years later. We're going to see which iconic albums turned 50 this year. All right, and stay tuned for Terrence Blanchard coming up next.